Hi, I'm Sarah.
And I'm David. Let's talk about BB22 All-Stars with a special guest.
Oh my gosh, yes. But first, if you're new to this channel, please click subscribe and give this video a thumbs up.
And if you want to support us on Patreon, there's a link in the description. All right,
You guys,
let's get to it.
We just rewatched Big Brother All-Stars. Last year we rewatched BB6 with you guys, and now he's here with us. We have James Rhine in the
house. Amazing introduction.
An actual all-star as opposed to some people on this season.
Right.
Small stars.
We're starting out with shade. Absolutely.
Yeah,
all right. Well, you guys, we're going to recap this Sunday episode first and then dive into spoilers with Veto. We're going to get James's opinion on everything. So let's start right off with the top of this episode with the HOH comp.
Yeah. What did you think of this, James? Who were you rooting for?
It was so
obviously,
close.
I mean, maybe not so obvious. I was rooting for Kaser. This looked like a perfect one. I've noticed with the HOH comps this year, I know some people have been complaining that, oh, they're, rigged in one direction or the other. They're more fair towards certain type players. I kind of feel like they've been pretty even keeled.
I agree.
A lot of the comps,
they're just circus games.
Yeah, they're not doing anything physically demanding. There's not insane memory skills that are required. It's kind of basic, in and out.
They're really like what you would play at a fair.
Completely. Yeah.
And this was skee ball. We got our hopes up because Kaser was almost there by the end of the episode. And then it went horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, obviously, for anyone that's rooting for Team Old School, which Team Old School is technically just Janelle and Kaser. I think it was really it was established kind of quickly that, Danny Donato is supposed to be Team Old School, Enzo is supposed to be Team Old School.
Yeah.
Evan is worthless. Keisha, obviously. I know people are like, oh, I loved her on, whatever that season was, but she didn't do shit. Like, she didn't even try to save herself, and it was really disappointing. I'm sure she's a wonderful person, and I met her whatever ago. But it's just so sad that there's all these other people they could have picked that would have gone in there and at least cared or tried.
Right?
Yeah, very disappointing.
So what was your first instinct on when you found out it was Enzo? Were you... was it horrible or it was okay?
So my first instinct was just kind of be disappointed, not with not the Enzo one, but just the Kaser lost.
Right.
I mean, the whole argument about Kaser against Kaser being an All-Stars, which you hear from people, and it is kind of a legitimate argument on the fact that he doesn't really win comps.
Yeah.
He is if he could just keep his strategy to himself or his immediate alliance, he would be, one of those genius players, because he does have great insight. People do trust him. He is a very loyal alliance member.
Yeah.
So this was that moment where I needed him and was just hoping that he would just come through. It wasn't something super difficult. It was literally like you referred to it as skee ball. So I was really disappointed that he didn't win, because this would have been his only opportunity to save himself. That other alliance, it's just too big and dominant. You can't do anything about it, because you won't have the numbers, you won't have the votes. So
I mean, in a way, in a way, it kind of reminded me of BB7 when season 6 was like in charge of the house for the first however many weeks. Like, this is kind of similar in terms of the same alliance being in power, at least.
No, I'll give you the second half of that. We're winning competitions, but we weren't in power. If you look at and I may get the weeks confused because it's been a long time, and I never even watched it for the first time. So never have. I've watched a couple episodes. Boogie when I got out of the house, or when after All Stars, when I was staying with him, he made me watch my eviction episode because he was still adamant that he's like, I didn't want you to go, and I'm like, bro, the show's over. Like, relax. But while we had power, if you look at my week, I think I was the third HOH.
Yeah.
I wanted to target Chilltown second week too when Kaser had it. Getting rid of Nokomis was probably a good strategy because she was a good player. But if you look at what the rest of season 6 wanted to do, they were actively going for Diane. And those of us that knew the game, Nokomis is a lot more dangerous than Diane. But first of all, with Will and Boogie, you don't go after Nicole and Nokomis. You know, they're not bringing people to their team. They don't have. We all had pregame alliances with Chilltown. That was just how it worked. But that was one of those things where Kaser had that pregame alliance also, and you know he wanted to kind of stay loyal to as many alliances as he could. So Nokomis was a good target, even though we had to force him to do that. Then with my week, I figured if we get rid of Chicken George, the house has to separate. You know, because everyone's like all the floaters. You know, Marcellus and Erica, and I don't even remember who else was in there back at that time. Diane and Nokomis, they were all like, oh, if Chicken George gets, you know, if I had a house, I'm putting up Chicken George, because they didn't want to go against Chilltown because they had alliances with them, and they didn't want to go against season 6 because we would come for them the following week if they were even able to get us out. So when Chicken George got off, it was Jace versus Dr. Will, you know, and the only people pushing for us to evict Dr. Will were myself and Danielle Reyes. Everyone else was really like, oh, we're going to go after Jace. And it's kind of like, I remember talking to Jason, like, all you have to do is shut the fuck up. Like, be an adult. You're on the block against Dr. Will. There's no reason that you should be going home over this. But he couldn't, because Dr. Will got underneath him and got him to be an asshole. You know, and Jace loved it, thinking he was getting all this great airtime, and he was, you know, making scenes and da-da-da-da. But it was obviously his own downfall. You know, and then the following week, we were supposed to put up the promise that they made to me in HOH room. If I put up Jace instead of Boogie, then, and also, and my own thing, I knew that if I could get rid of Will or Boogie, that the other one would align with Danielle Reyes, and she was my side alliance also. So as much as I didn't want to keep both of them, I was happy keeping one, because that would have cemented me in with Danielle and that other person. So, I mean, I had my side alliances too, just like everybody else did. But at least we had to get rid of one. And then when they promised me if we put up Jace, they'll go after him next week. But then when Janelle threw the veto comp and let Boogie off and then didn't put up Will afterwards, that's when it was just like, yeah, we're done. So at least
you were a little mad. You were.
I was mad, you know? And at that point, it even destroyed my original strategy of wanting to get rid of at least one of Will and Boogie. But I figured somebody else would do that, but nobody
You would figure. You would.
Oh, I was insanely mad because I spent the entire summer. I went on this show I had never heard of. Then I spent the entire summer defending myself to what I thought were fucking idiots. And if you still think to this day that I would have put up Howie or Rachel, you're a fucking idiot. That's just kind of how it works. Like, if you have an alliance, you should be able to tell the enemies, so to speak, anything you want. And that's how it works. You know, it's like you lie to your enemies. But, you know, I mean, obviously that was great television, having us blindsided. Although it did, you know. So my whole thing is defending that all summer. So I wanted to prove how loyal I was on season 7, knowing that everyone had pregame alliances. And it was just one of those things where at that point I tried. I gave them my best effort. And then at that point it was, nah, fuck it. But hey, at least these people have stuck together. You know,
they are so far.
They have the next thing in the episode. They start talking about these Hinky votes. You know, Danny really wanted to do this to set some blame, but she told Cody. So now Cody's telling people that Danny suggested it. Is this even a thing, James? Why are we?
There's a couple different layers to this. Hinky vote can work great. When I did it in season 6, it was to blame Michael, not realizing that quickly that Michael and Kaser were the secret partners. So while Kaser and Mike knew that, but nobody else really did. But here, it's shit you have to keep to yourself. You know, and with Danny telling everyone, you can't really see. That's why she's like for this season, she's like a top tier villain. But overall, it's just, you know, it's sophomoric, it's basic. You can't do something like that to sow distrust when a certain percentage of the people know that you're the one that did it. And then denying it to them makes it even worse. Because it's just, she can't keep her story straight, and she has to, I guess, boast about her conquest. And that's not a good villain. The reason people hated Danielle Reyes on her season was because when they went back and watched, you know, that's why she lost, when they saw the diary rooms after their eviction, they're like, you know, this woman's evil. Like, she's crushing us and laughing about it. But that's what we want to see as a villain.
Right.
You know?
So, and then first
I don't know why she wasn't
9-2. 9 to 2. That's not what the fuck does it matter?
Yeah.
Like, and the whole drama over this episode, it's like, if it was 5 to 6, 7 to 8, or even a tie that comes out, that makes a big deal. As we really need to figure out who this was. But if you're going to pin it on Bailey and Davon, they were friends with Janelle.
Right.
Yeah. Who cares?
Who cares? It's not. She's not going to jury. You're not going to see her again. You had an overwhelming, proportion of the votes. So what does it matter? The person who came out worse from this is the person who thought that it was going to be their strategy, Danielle.
I know.
Yeah.
And
now but of course, I can't get into spoilers, so you actually announce it. But
right.
Hold up.
I just couldn't believe, like, she told Cody that she wanted to do this Hinky vote plan. Then she did it without him. And then he's the first person she goes to, like, who do you think did those votes? And he's like, I think you did it. Like, what are you talking about? You're the only person who was talking about it in the house. So yeah, I think you did it. But she's playing dumb, I think, totally ineffectively.
Like, why would you go to the person that you tried to bring on board to do that? It doesn't.
Right?
Be honest with that.
It literally doesn't make any sense. But for this season, she's the villain.
I would go to Cody and be like, it wasn't me. Like, I know that I said that I wanted to throw a Hinky vote, but it wasn't me. I voted, with the group. But she's just like,
Cody, did you take me seriously? Like, did you do that vote? Because I didn't do it. You told me you weren't going to do it, so I didn't do it. So who the fuck is it? That is the type of way you have to go for this. You can't, it's fucking small stars.
We've been calling it available stars. Big Brother available stars.
Well, and here's the deal. Like, and I say this literally every time that I'm asked about it. CBS, their job is to market their show. And they have, not only do they have to sell it to the people they're bringing on, obviously they have to sell it to the crowd, the viewers, internet people. But you have to sell those all-stars. You're not going to get someone to, the people that are working or whatever, like, hey, you want to come on a season of second chances? Or almost, or hey, a couple winners got COVID and a couple winners can't do this. And some people laughed at us, but what about it? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Just because it says it's all stars doesn't mean that it's actually all stars.
But why not call it like All Stars 2 or Legends versus
Legends versus non-legends.
Legends versus All Stars. You know what I mean? Old school versus new school. I think there could have been some really fun marketing platforms for this, but they just didn't run with them.
Yeah, they need to take a cue from Survivor. Like, Survivor's really good at that kind of, let's just make up a person versus person.
Like, how hard is it to walk into the next fucking office? You know what I mean? Like, it's on CBS Live. It's not.
You're like, what do you guys want us to call this?
Hey guys, they're all friends. They all talk to each other. It's not like maybe they don't want to take all the good ideas. Or probably like, why don't you just do All Stars again? Save all the cool shit for us. Probably. But the season still has good potential. We're all kind of butthurt in the beginning because Janelle is obviously legend. She's 4 different times, literally the 2000s, 2010, now the 2020s. Like, she's
it's crazy.
3 different decades technically. That's pretty impressive.
Wow. Yeah, it really is.
When he's gone, the substance level just drops in the house. You're not going to see a lot of these conversations that you're beginning with him and Devon and
that's the next.
Anyone Kaser talks to is like educational.
Yeah.
Right. So we see this great conversation with Kaser and Davon in this last episode. By the way, Janelle was sitting in the middle of that and they totally edited her out, which is crazy when that happens.
Yeah. I didn't realize,
Yeah.
But like, that's the thing. Like, we're about to lose Kaser probably. And we're not going to get any of these meaningful segments anymore.
No, you won't. That's just the way it is. There's not. I don't know. I mean, I know all of these people in there pretty personally, pretty well, and on a personal level, pretty well. But I just don't see that. He brings a different dynamic to the game.
Mm-hmm.
Or not just to the game, but to the show in itself.
Right.
And
especially
he's kind of been,
now.
like, it feels like he's been playing for that reason to a certain extent ever since BB6. Like, I remember in that season, he was like, I came on to show that, Middle Eastern Americans aren't necessarily what everyone is assuming and all of that. And it's kind of cool to see him so many years later. I mean, it's kind of unfortunate that he's still having to play for that reason, that we're still kind of in the same place. But I don't know. I just feel like he's such an important character in BB history, so it's great to have him back.
Right. At least we can be grateful that we had it for a few weeks.
I didn't think Howie should have been on the first All-Stars, because I'm like, this guy's never done anything except fuck up his alliance. But at that time, he was great television,
Yeah.
I talked to Howie a couple times a week. He was one of my groomsmen. We're incredible friends. If he admits to this day, he probably shouldn't have been on All-Stars, So.
I honestly was worried about him watching All-Stars. It seemed like it took him to a dark place.
Yeah.
Like, 6 might have been fun and 7 not so fun for him.
Doing it, and this is why, as much as I thought Nicole Anthony was an absolute failure this year, you can't be angry at her. David is separate because he deserves his own category.
Right.
But with her, for example, being that incredibly well-liked person, winning America's favorite player, us doing it a season back-to-back, even back then where social media was like in its genesis, you know what I mean? Like YouTube was barely out. It was MySpace. Facebook was still for people only in college.
Right.
There were no platforms like Twitter. You couldn't do things like this. Now to do season back-to-back, you don't have a time to detox. And she got out of her show. She set up her podcast. She's just been completely enveloped in this and hasn't had really and then, now we have a pandemic, and now she's being asked to go back again. And I think it was pretty overwhelming because she's not someone who was a great game player. She was just a great person.
Right.
So when you now develop a game and a game presence, it's a lot more difficult.
Right.
So
absolutely.
I feel bad for her in that sense.
Yes, absolutely. I hope she takes some time. A mental health break.
And that was, to your point with Howie, is he got his infamy, so to speak, by being just a loud, obnoxious person tearing down April, Busto, and threatening her dog and all that stuff. I mean, shit, Howie would be evicted by the producers if he tried that shit, in 2020. They would literally be like, the cast members would be like, I'm being sexually harassed by this guy who talks about my boobies.
Right.
Yes. We're in a different time now.
Yes.
So,
so the have-nots seem to be a little different since a have-not was evicted. They went down to 3. Not sure if we're going to keep that.
It's interesting because I feel like it incentivizes evicting a have-not, because if you just get rid of them, then we're going to go from 3 down to 2 and down to 1, and then the have-nots are just going to go away.
Here's the deal. You guys are thinking way more strategic than anyone in that house. But that is the point. Think about it. When in the older seasons, when you were able to give a punishment to someone, it was like with Nicole. Nicole wanted to give it to Janelle because she absolutely hated her.
Yeah.
And that was the purpose of these things. And that's what makes good television. If it's, that even should be a bargaining tool. Like, hey, you keep me safe.
Yeah.
I'm not going to throw this. I'm not going to throw
There you go. Yeah.
You know what? You keep me safe. You want to work with me? Who do you want me to stick with the have-nots next week? These are all things that when the producers are putting this together are probably thinking, this would be awesome. I would have loved to have been able to give out a have-not. Could you imagine me being able to give one to Maggie? Because I would have had it every other week because the entire team was trying to put me up. Both sides. Maggie, have-not. April, fucking eat your slop. This would have been great television because you could have had people constantly doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
And using it as a tool. But now it's just kind of like, who wants to volunteer?
I know.
Really? People are volunteering to go on the block.
I know.
Well, yes.
I feel like that's kind of a little bit of an old school, new school divide there. New school, they just nobody wants to make wave. Janelle and Kaser have talked about it on the feeds a lot. They're there to target people, make moves, piss people off, and the new school people are like, who wants to volunteer? I don't want to paint a target on myself for any reason whatsoever,
But also, and that's Kaser was one of the later people added onto the show. At least I didn't hear his name being tossed around at all. So I don't think he had the time to develop pregame alliances like a lot of the other ones did. Janelle had a bunch going in, obviously. I just wish that inside the house they would have done more to establish another alliance instead of it just being them. Granted, they were behind the 8 ball since week 1 when Memphis, who was supposed to be old school, was even considering targeting them.
Right.
But once again, that goes back to his pregame alliances that he had with other people. So it's that part is incredibly frustrating. First All Stars, we had that first HOH competition. There were 2 head of households. If they don't come to an agreement, then they both go up. There was something in the show called us into the diary room and wanted us to work our pregame alliances into it, into the episode. And that hasn't been done. So it feels like when we're watching, even in the first week, that we missed a couple weeks of the whole maturing process inside the house, because these people have been having Zoom calls, for weeks in advance.
Wow.
So I think that took away from them a lot of the viewers' experiences.
For sure. Absolutely. All right. So let's just get through Enzo's plan here. He pretty much wants to get Kaser out for everybody.
Plan. Let's call it is. It's Cody and Tyler's plan. And Enzo is just, the pawn.
Well, it was, puppet. I mean, we could take it back to it was Danny's plan to target
probably
both of them.
They all want the couple of that core group. They want Kaser and Janelle gone.
Yeah. It is mostly Cody. He's the only one
and
scared
targeting 40-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like, think about
never
any
made
other
jury.
Season. Yeah, it's any other season. Think about going in there and just being like, you know what? I'm gonna go after the oldest people in the house first.
Mm-hmm. Well,
for no
they
reason
do that
whatsoever.
every year. They do that a lot.
Well, normally there's only one, and it's just because they're annoying. But if you sit back and you're any player and you think outside of like that, Enzo, for example, with everything that's going on right now about how much they realize about Cody, realizing that Danny is playing a lot of people and they're starting to open up to the other alliances. How do you make the decision of missing an opportunity to strike after one of those people? And I'm not going to give any spoilers, but after the veto ceremony, someone's going to have the power most of the time to remove someone. This is where you would take that opportunity to strike, because there's a good chance, one of those, your enemies is going to get the head of household next week. There's a really good chance that Kaser, if he stays, is not, based on, averages.
Right.
So I just don't understand why the entire house is just laid down. Maybe there was some sort of agreement, before the show started that, hey, this is the order we want to get rid of these people.
Sure.
I just in reality, does it make any sense?
Yeah. I feel like Enzo has been in this position. Like, I don't know if anybody's coming after Enzo, so I don't know if he has any enemies that he needs to like strike at right now. But Kaser, I feel like, is also definitely not coming for Enzo. And I'm surprised that Enzo didn't try to work that, because Kaser feels very much like a free agent right now. I mean, he's, we know he's in with Day and Bay, and I think the house probably knows that to a certain extent as well.
But they're not even really in there because they're talking about throwing him under the bus also.
Yeah, I feel like Enzo could have been like, Kaser, like, let's figure something out. Like, you don't have Janelle anymore. Like, maybe we can work together. And Kaser could have broken up another duo at some point, in some
Enzo already has backup. He's playing for Final Four again. That's it. He's going to be, Final Four, and that's as far as he'll get if he makes it that far. But that's what
the fact that Kaser is supposedly going after Cody and Tyler, and that's who Enzo is aligned with. I'm assuming that that's why it's so important to Enzo to stick with that. He also seems like he doesn't want to make waves, which was also Memphis, also Tyler. They wanted to just go the easy route. Yeah. So here we are, getting Kaser out.
Yeah, getting Kaser out. And now Enzo can't compete in head of household. And he's going to be a man down going against, a real alliance. It's going to see his time to strike, because now the sides have to be drawn. And if it does turn out to where they just start targeting, Bailey and Devon next, how fucking boring is this going to get? And that's what's funny, because the show has a lot of potential, but no one wants to sit around till like Final Five to start watching people play.
Exactly. Like, you want there to be some kind of power shift, that's why I was so hoping for a Kaser or a Devon or a Bailey to win this HOH, just to get the power away from that group of people who's been controlling everything, like literally everything. HOHs, vetoes, safety suites, like they've just been winning everything.
But I, having lived it, I always try to take it from everybody else's perspective. If you're Devon, Bailey, Kevin, Christmas, for example, who all feel like they're pretty comfortable with other people in there. Yeah. Because literally since day one, it's been Kaser Janelle. That's who we have to get rid of. Are you really going to want to jump up and get the head of household? Because think about it. Bailey wins head of household instead of Enzo. What is the entire house going to be doing? You have to put up Kaser. Yeah. You don't put up Kaser, and Kaser doesn't go home, then we're coming after you next week.
True.
You know what I mean? So once again, that's the problem, is that people are just going to lay back and be like, all right, why do I want to, bring out attention to myself? Like, everybody's got to go home in order for you to win. Doesn't matter how much you like them or you don't. You know what I mean? It's just you and another person in the end. And every week that you're there and somebody else isn't is a win. Yeah. And that's, the way that they're looking at it. I'm going to check my score real quick. Hold on.
So, Oh, I was wondering what we were watching behind you.
Yeah.
Miami Heat, Milwaukee Bucks.
NBA, okay.
Second round of the NBA playoffs.
Are we rooting for Miami?
Of course.
Yes. Just making sure. So as expected, boring noms. Enzo puts up Kaser and Kevin. So now, hold on, we can go to spoilers, you guys.
Spoilers.
Wow, do you love that
there we go.
Song, James?
Song, the graphics, everything was
Reminds
me of back when I was in Big Brother.
We used to be in the same room and we could do it together, but virtually it doesn't work. So we just have to put it in a graphic, you guys. Okay, let's talk about this veto. This is actually the first time this season that
anybody's
someone has
coming
won.
off the block.
Yeah, that we can actually take someone off the block, but it was just Kevin. Kevin. It wasn't Kaser, unfortunately. No. Kevin won, took himself off the block today, and Christmas was the renom because she volunteered. Okay, James, tell us how you feel about that.
Gameplay here,
from the beginning, I just haven't thought that Christmas should have been in the house. I don't think she did anything in her season.
No,
I think she should have been kicked out of her season. The moment she had to go to the hospital, she should have been done.
You mean voting from a hospital bed?
Yeah.
What?
Under medication, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
With pain meds on, on pain meds. When Boogie kicked something in the backyard in All Stars and had to get stitches in his foot, it was like, if we take you to the hospital, you're done. So they had to get stitches and you had to get them done there. That's kind of, don't fuck up. It's like anything else. But so there's no reason why she should have been back on the show at all. Not to mention her fucking domestic violence. Like, you don't try to run somebody over in a car and then go on a reality show.
And then you get to go back to your reality show to win $500,000. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
But I thought she might try to do something different, because I think that's kind of what All Stars is about. Like, you all failed to win in the first place, so you're going to maybe switch up your game, try to do something different. And here we see Christmas again, just playing other people's game for them.
David, that is not All Stars whatsoever. Are you a fan of any sports teams? Like, think about the All Star. Seriously, but I'm not doing this to talk down to you. I'm saying, if you think about an All Star NBA team, like East versus West, it's literally the best players.
Yeah.
From each division, each league division stuck together to compete against each other. It's not, hey, let's throw this person a second chance. Because think of all the other women, minus Vanessa, Rachel, Jessica Nixon, that all, have babies or are about to have babies.
Yeah.
There's so many different girls that you could have brought back.
For sure. I completely agree.
Fun and that, wanted to play. And and gave it a good shot their first time. Yeah. So Christmas is the pick, except for David, that I was most upset with. I understand COVID. A lot of people don't want to do it.
Yeah, she's just not doing anything different to me from the first time she played the game. She's still just kind of like attaching herself to someone else, and she's excited to do whatever they want her to do.
Yeah.
Remember the All Girls Alliance? Like, hey, let's do an All Girls Alliance week 1. We bought 3 drop in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Right. No, Christmas, that's exactly what she showed us at 19, is that she will just play for somebody else. And unfortunately, that's all she's done so far is latch on and play for other people. She said today, like, I just want to show the house that I trust them. I was like what is that? Why? Anyway, so here we are with her as a pawn.
Yeah. So being up against Christmas, especially her having that attitude, there's no chance Kaser stays. None.
Yeah. Right.
You can't even, it's not even worth taking a shot, because if he was up against Danny, like, I know there was a lot of talk about putting her up because they realized she's fucking a snake.
Yeah.
Right.
then he has a shot because then you can be persuaded. Then the diary room can even help people out. Like, who is more dangerous to your long-term game? And you ask that to any person in that house, and you really have to answer Danny. You know, who's more dangerous if they stay for next week? You have to answer Danny. You have to answer anyone else except for Christmas. Maybe David, you know? But it just...
Do you really think, though, James, at this moment, if you have Kaser on the block and you have to put up a renom, is that a better move for Enzo to put Danny up and go for a big swing, or keep it this way and go for Kaser? I mean, our love for Kaser aside.
At this point, I think you want someone like Danny out because Danny, villain, she is someone that you don't want to make it to jury. Because she's still, we've seen by her gameplay and her attitude, you don't want Nicole and Danny in jury because they're both children still. You know, Nicole is still talking shit about Janelle for personal reasons. You know, Danny was doing the same stuff. Like, you don't want bitter jurors in there or people who are going to make personal decisions. You know, and that's why if they were really students of the game and understood it, I'm not even, I can't tell you what happened on my season, but it's just, if you're a competitor and you look at, you know, the pluses and minuses of each person in the house and the stages you want them, you have to see that. You know, how do you not look when the whole purpose is, you know, the final two, you have to have, you know, the majority of the people, that jury that are voting for you. Do you want people who are going to make personal decisions? Do you want someone who stood up on the live show and was like, you don't like me? You know what I mean? No, you don't want that stuff, because that is, I mean, those are bitter jurors and they're only going to work against you. And as much as everyone says, oh, in jury, you know, there's no game talk, there's fucking game talk. It's all we do. What else are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? You know what I mean? Like, you talk about the game.
How can you not? It's all you've lived for the last month or two. So what else are you going to talk about?
One of my biggest regrets from season 6 was that if Maggie had lost, because I was actively campaigning against her in jury, because I didn't understand Big Brother yet, because it was my first time on or even watching.
Sure.
And to me, the game didn't end until the winner was crowned, you know, but it ends when you go to jury. And Maggie played an incredible game, a phenomenal game. And if she had lost to a vet, we would be talking about season 6 having one of the worst, most bitter juries ever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
so
true.
I'm so glad that Maggie won, because she deserved it.
Yeah. So
I essentially would have been classified as a bitter juror, when in reality, I just didn't realize that the game stopped, as much as producers tell you that.
Right.
Like, to me, the game hadn't stopped, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I want to make sure she lost, because I want to get rid of her the whole time.
Yeah. If you were in this BB22 house and you were Enzo and you kind of knew what he knows about Danny, but I think you also have to know that right now Danny's not coming after you because she's like got other targets in front of Enzo. Would you still want to take that shot at Danny just because
100%. My plea to Cody and Memphis, or however the alliances are lined up right now, I would sit down with the decision makers, not the ass kissers, you know, and the tag along with the leeches. I would sit down with them like, you guys, we have to make a decision, you know. And if you look at, is Kaser better in jury or is Danny better in jury? You know, who is going to be working with us when we all of a sudden, if you backdoor Danny once you get to jury, she's taking that personal and she's taking that to, you know, the jury house, and she's going to campaign against you. Now, if Nicole goes in jury also, you have two people that are technically automatically against you. And you have to look at it that way, you know?
Yeah.
Where Kaser, you have good conversations with him, you know, you develop a friendship, and it has to be, all right, this is your week to go because, you know, this is how it happened. It's not something personal that's going on right now. So I would literally sit down and be like, Cody, you know, Memphis, whoever it is that's actually pulling the strings there, and just be like, this is why we have to get rid of Danny now, because one, she's going to strike and one of us will go. Danny's not dumb. She'll put up two people from that alliance, and one of them will go home. Right? You know, it's just that's how the block works. So it's
James, let me throw in
past this week.
Yes. No, I don't think they can. Question from the chat.
Danny and Nicole, I see the question right there. Yeah. Danny and Nicole are the same person in jury. So they're going to be both bitter. They're going to play what the other person wants them to do. Their jury questions are going to be juvenile and asinine. They won't be about
Mm-hmm.
gameplay.
Right.
You don't want them in jury. They've already proved that this whole thing is personal.
What about David? Let's talk about David now, because you said he's in a category of his own. Do we even
David
know
is the person in
happening?
the house. And that is because you have no idea what he's going to do.
Exactly.
Or what
Right.
he's capable of. If just think about it. Like if David was holding Veto right now, I'm sure he could be strong-armed into believing not to use it. But literally, he's just that wild card that you have no idea what's going on. If HOH is some sort of crapshoot, you know, and he ends up like his bucket gets filled fastest, what's going to happen? You know what I mean? He's already started like talking shit to people, but never having done anything. You know, and I just don't. He's the type of person after the nomination ceremony when the two keys, you know, are turned, and he's all of a sudden like, "Hey guys, you two are the ones that are safe this week," and everyone's like, "That's not how this works." You know what I mean? Like, he's just so bad for everything. He would have been a perfect one that they could have even easily gotten away with. Be like, bro, okay, you know, this ride is over for you. It's time to send you home. Let the big kids play. And
can you compare him to Chicken George? Is there a comparison there?
There is a comparison of David to Chicken George in only the sense that the game they're in now is not what they played the first time. You know, David was evicted before he went in. I think, or was there for like an hour. He hung out in Camp Comeback, you know, and then he lost that, right? He didn't even get to go back in. Who came back? Whatever. He went home. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
so,
he didn't come back.
Chicken George played a completely different game, you know, where it was America voted and it was like menial task and they had to raise chickens and wash clothes on like a, you know, little washboard and shit. Like he was just out of his league, the same as David is out of his league. And that is where the comparison stops. Chicken George watched the shows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He may have not known where the diary room was, but he still understood it. You know?
Right.
David had all the technology at his fingertips. And he could have caught up on any one of the seasons. He could have caught up on all the seasons.
Yeah.
You know?
Just one.
For 2
Just
weeks.
one would have been nice. Yeah.
The question was 2 weeks for the COVID
and he
test.
was given homework by Ovi. He said, here's some research. Watch these, read this. I don't know what it was. And he did none of it. So that's on him.
And to me, that is, I remember when he was talking about that. You can't defend him anymore. The only thing that makes David likable is the incredible people running his social media.
Twitter. Yes, if we could swap them in, that'd be
hilarious.
Great.
Like, whoever it is awesome. That's the only redeeming. When I met David last year in Vegas, thought the guy was great. He talked a good game, and I thought, sure, give him another chance. But I just couldn't imagine being given that opportunity again and not doing anything to educate yourself. But then he talked about the thing. He talked about, he wants to go on Love Island.
Right.
Why didn't you get in shape?
Which would have been better. That would have been better.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to go on Survivor and you're not, you know, cutting back on, you know, your caloric intake and getting ready and learning all these skills that will keep you alive out there.
Yeah.
You know, what's the point?
Yeah.
You know?
No, Love Island feels like a good fit for him because there's no prep involved. You don't have to prepare for anything. I guess you just have to work out so you look good, and that's really it. But I kind of want
to stay in shape. It's hard work.
Yeah, true. But like, if you were in the house with David, is he someone you want to get out pre-jury because he doesn't know what's what in this game, or do you want to save him for the jury for some reason?
I don't think David matters one way or the other in that. I think that if you have a week where, let's say, you don't want to take a risk with you know, making a move that's going to draw more attention to yourself, or I think it just has to be like, you know what, fuck it, it's David's week. You know, it's time to send him home. You know, let's say you have, you know, your two alliances, you don't want to, you know, call out one over the other. Or it's easy. David is a person that at any point in the game, if you're like, you know what, I think it's time for David to go home. You know, say that to Memphis. Next thing you know, Memphis is telling everybody, yeah, fuck it, let's get this kid out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
It's easy. It's just how, like anything, it's just how you sell it. You've got to pitch it to the right people.
Well, and because now
start
he's
with Danny.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. If you get Danny on board.
I'm saying if you start with Danny's like, no, because this is strategy. We can't go after David. We have to go after, you know, Janelle or Kaser. Nicole, you couldn't do that too because they're so far in the game. but you have to give it to those people who have already showed sort of like that, demeanor that, yeah, I'd be happy to have him do this. Then when you have the numbers, it's easier to put that, pitch it to everybody else.
Right. But I feel like now he's dangerous in a different way, right? Because like he obviously showed everybody in the last couple of weeks that he's a terrible social player, so nobody's going to tell him anything anymore. But now he's in this headspace of like, well, if I'm not going to be a social beast, so I'm going to be a comp beast, and I'm going to win HOH and Veto, and that's the last place I want him to be, because I'm like, if you're in power, what are you going to do? Like, I don't trust you to make a good decision.
None of it makes sense. Like he hasn't won anything.
Yeah.
And he's not coming close.
Never. Right.
And it's just.
Let's talk about pre-games, James. So you guys had pre-game alliances in 7, and they obviously had them now. Like, what should we care? Are they a damage to the game?
The fans say that they're a damage to the game. I think the way this is going right now, it looks like it's a damage to the game. But you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Survivor lasts a month. You could literally go like 2 weeks out and be like, hey, especially now with, the pandemic and a lot of people aren't working. Hey, possibility, or you contact everybody. You hit up 40 people, 50 people instead of just, the people you're getting. And when one person declines, then you go on to the next. You ask people, and they were putting out feelers for a lot of people, obviously, but like shit, I was talking to people beforehand, knowing good and well, there's no way that I would go because of baby, but then I was trying to get that information to push it on back to Janelle. But it's impossible. The thing is, there has to be something done with production. Instead of them outlawing it and saying, hey, you can't have pregame alliances or we're going to sue you or blah, blah, blah.
Right.
They should just be like, listen, we know you're going to talk, but these are the things we put in place to win, because we have to do it for the fans. We have to know what is going on. We have to do it for fans, we have to do it for producers. We have to understand, we have to make the show relevant. If the game's already been played, what's the purpose of watching the show? Because then we have it like right now, just every single week, it's exactly how this alliance, we have no idea why they formed or how they have such a bond. Because the fun part of Big Brother is watching alliances form and not knowing who is, really loyal. But if you've been talking about this for a month beforehand and giving all the information that you're getting from, fake alliances to your main alliance, that's really important to the show. And that's great development that we're missing out on as the weeks go by. So there should be something. And literally, to be honest, when they're interviewing these house guests, when they have them there before they go in, they should be asking them about that. Be like, hey, I know you've had a lot of time to talk to people. What should we be looking for when you go in? They should be fucking recording them. And you have Cody being like, oh, man, Dan and Derek, they got together with, me and Memphis. And they're like, oh, yeah, it could be like the Renegade / whatever again. They're going to talk because everyone wants to look like, cool in front of the producers. They're going to spit all their shit. And then the producers would have that, and it would be so easy to just incorporate that stuff into the show, by saying, you know what, it's allowed, but this is how we have to kind of work it into the show to make it more fair for the viewers. And so production has to, and production has an idea of what's going on, because there are writers on reality shows because they have to have story arcs and they have to have, good versus evil. And
I would have loved to have heard Danny say, I talk to Nicole all the time. We're so close. I also talk to Janelle and we pregame.
I also talk to Janelle. Nicole and I said that because Nicole hates Janelle hates Nicole, that I am going to go with Team Nicole. You would respect Danny and Nicole's game so much better.
Sure.
Because we have that backstory, the reasoning for it, instead of just seeing these two girls being petty about everything.
Right.
If Nicole was saying, hey, I approached Bailey beforehand, but Bailey told me no. Maybe that's why Nicole, or I forget, it was Nicole or Danny, one of them that said Bailey stole Janelle's clothes, instead of Janelle giving them to her or like letting her borrow them. Like this petty shit that makes them look so bad on television, there's no explanation for it. So it just seems petty.
Right.
Yeah. So if you were not expecting a little baby, would you have gone back this summer?
100%. It would have been a perfect opportunity because obviously I've been unemployed since like the end of May. But literally, I don't. This is the first child I've had or having, and what women go through is it's unbelievable. I'm so glad I don't have to do this.
Yeah.
But just the up and down and the stress of pregnancy and just the things that it's her first pregnancy also. That, so it's all new to us. And for me to have left,
right.
It wouldn't have made any sense. It's like a real asshole move.
It kind of is, James. It kind of is. Yeah.
Yeah.
We would have loved to have seen it, but we understand.
Yeah.
I have a few questions from our patrons that they sent in ahead of time. So Seth is asking, what's your take on new school versus old school, and how has the game changed over the years?
The game has changed in the sense that, old school players were just ruthless in the sense that it was a competition. There could only be one winner. Everyone was in there under the same, set of rules and explanations, and that's how it was. It was cutthroat. And you didn't really care. You weren't going out of your way to be super malicious for the most of the time, but there can be only one. Whereas new school, people are going in there, they don't want to ruffle any feathers. They're worried more about afterwards. Paul, perfect example. People knew he was popular his first season, so none of the house guests wanted to go after him. Okay, Cody wanted to go after him. All right, Cody wanted to get rid of him week 1, and CBS ended up dropping every bullshit twist on the planet to save Paul.
Yeah.
And Cody was the only smart person then, because he's like, why do you want to? They kept Paul the entire summer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Watching what he did the year before. None of that stuff makes sense. Whereas old school,
so painful.
We've literally all said, all of us past house guests, that if we ever do an All-Stars and Dan and Derek were in there, Dan and Derek would go first and second, because CBS could only save one with the battle back.
Right.
But it's just, you have to do that. This is the way it has to be played. So there was no old school versus new school this year. It was Janelle and Kaser versus the entire house. So it was season 6 versus, it was the first All-Stars versus the second All-Stars.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, so Faith is asking, who do you want to win? Who do you think is playing the best game?
I mean, Kaser, I would love for him to win. I'd love for Janelle to win, but that's not going to happen. Once Kaser goes home, if I don't really care who wins, no, and I mean that. I just want to see a good game,
right?
I want to see backstabbing. I want to see some fun stuff. I want to see some chaos. I want to see people like real tears. I don't want to see tears over somebody hurting their feelings. I want to see tears over betrayal.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that we all watch this show for. Ian's kind of sitting back right now, just chilling, but people have some eyes on him. But like what he did in his original season was phenomenal.
Right.
The move on Mike Boogie, getting to the end, beating Dan. I want to see moves like, I want to see that type stuff. I want to see people blindsided like Sarah and I were. I don't care about the other stuff. It's just not fun television. It's not fun gameplay.
Right.
So, but as for who I think is in the best spot, I think Bailey is in the best spot, hands down.
Wow. Even though Danny's after her right now.
Yeah.
Danny's not really after her, I don't think. I think that, I mean, she is after her, but there's so many other targets beforehand.
Yeah.
And I think that everyone is going to realize sending Kaser home this week was a mistake.
Yeah.
I agree.
And unless Danny or Nicole win this head of household, I don't think Bailey has anything to be worried about. Because if somebody else wins it on, the Enzo, Cody, Memphis side, Tyler's in a great spot too. For someone that's actually playing, Tyler is still in a great spot. Tyler and Bailey, I think, are in the best 2 spots in that house. If Danny goes home next week or Nicole goes home next week, well, then the lines would have been drawn. There would have been that first move would have been made. So everything else is going to be retribution, and that should be going back and forth. So I think in that case, Bailey kind of, because if you take out Bailey, you're not going after, any of the main guy alliance that's crushing everybody. What would be the point? It'd be stupid. If Danny goes after Bailey and Davon next week, let's say she wins head of household, then she's not a villain. She's just a dumbass. Think about it. How do those two affect your game? It doesn't. It doesn't. It really doesn't. It would have to be in just another personal move. I understand going after Janelle because people are still scared of her, even though she's a 40-year-old mom of 3. You know what I mean? Like,
what about the strategy of keeping Janelle in as a shield for her?
Doesn't matter. Too late. She's gone. She left last week.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean,
why didn't
it'd be great to go back in.
Why didn't we get a twist to save Janelle? If they did so much for Paul, why didn't we get anything?
Yeah.
Well, that was also the stuff with maybe the safety suite was to help these people, last longer. It's unfortunate that Kaser and Janelle both did it at the same time.
Right.
But once again, the downfall of season 6, people, was not securing any core alliances outside of each other.
Yeah.
Because there could have been people working for them, whether that was result of the pre-gaming or not. That's the fault. They didn't have anyone else that would help them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Janelle would have gone home 11-0 if it wasn't for the 2 Hinky votes.
Yeah.
Think about that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Kaser will probably go home with 0 votes. I mean, with 0 votes for him to stay.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we get another twist soon, because I do feel like those twists that a lot of fans hate the twists and they just want like pure Big Brother and all that. But I do feel like the safety suite was there a little bit to dismantle or disrupt those pregame alliances. Like, I think that's why they throw those twists in there, to just kind of shake things up. And I was surprised that we just got 3 weeks of safety suite and then nothing for this week. I thought it was going to be like twist after twist, at least at the beginning. So I hope we do get another one at some point, because it does not look like we're getting a battle back, which is unfortunate. No, not with Julie talking to Janelle like that. It's bashed. Yeah.
The thing is, the twists and all that stuff are basically decided on before the season. I know there have been some suspect moves, like the Pandora's box during Portia's HOH,
right.
From Jordan.
Sure.
Season 8 was just rigged from the start. You know what I mean? There have been other things that have been questionable, but it would have been a bad look for CBS and for the game if there was some crazy twist that just popped up and saved Janelle. Like, imagine,
it would have been a bit obvious.
How would we as viewers look if, let's say, imagine the house, what would be going on right now if all of a sudden a twist that's not announced at the beginning of the week, and all of a sudden, hey, there's this twist, and Janelle's walking out. Today is the revolving door twist, where whoever gets evicted comes right back in. You know, you can't do that and claim that it's a game show.
Right.
At that point,
you're right. Like, Julie has to at some point tease that there is this twist happening. It can't happen.
Correct.
As soon as Janelle walks out the door, you're going back in.
I'm okay with it.
I do hope that once Casey leaves, they just give everyone COVID, but whatever. Just kidding.
Okay,
hey guys, you're being visited from Dr. Fauci. That's the twist this week.
A question from Hunter. He wants to know if you had made it to final 2 on BB6 and BB7, who you would have taken with you to final 2.
Well, in season 6, the only person that I could have won with would have had to have been Sovereign, because the Nerd Herd had the numbers. So even if I was up against April, they were all voting for their person.
Right.
So I would have liked to have taken Howie to the end, because there's no argument that you could have given. Howie wouldn't even argue. He would have been like, give him the money. You know what I mean? If it was Janelle and I in the end, then it would have been more of like, okay, well, I won 5 vetoes, you won 3 vetoes, you had 2 HOHs, like that type shit. Rachel, there couldn't have been an argument as to, So Howie would have been great, because it would have made great television for me, because he wouldn't have been able to argue why he was staying. Or why he deserved to win Reyes. And more than likely they probably would have given it to her, because she made final 2 again. I love Danielle. Her and Howie are probably my closest friends from Big Brother. Just, it would have been nice to get to the end with her, so she could have had her chase in 2 years in a row, or 2 seasons. But which
that would have been
nice.
Such
an underrated alliance. I wish more fans would go back and watch season 3. The Jason and Danielle the dynamic was just incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. So yeah.
Well,
definitely that.
We just rewatched 6 and 7 with while we had some downtime, and it was really, really fun to go back and watch. And it's so exciting that you came on to talk to us. Is there anything else you want to yell about this season?
I mean, Big Brother was something I could give two shits about before I got on the show. I'd never watched it, never heard about it. When Kaser goes home this week, I think people should just give it a shot. It's still going to be that game. Yes, there's a whole bunch of things that we couldn't plan for this year, like pandemic and all this other bullshit. It has to get better. The producers are feeling the same pressure, that we are feeling annoyed. And I guarantee you they have a good summer planned. It's just going to take a bit because the pregame alliances.
I think we're all just heartbroken because Janelle and Kaser, we just got super excited, but there really is a lot of game happening. And once those distractions are out of the house, once they don't have a Kaser or Janelle to blame everything on, then I think it will get a bit spicier. They have no choice.
I put it like this. If you really love Kaser and Janelle and you're a huge fan of them and you really care about them as people, where are they better off? Sitting in jury, what I mean, away from their family? Kaser Friday is going to be with his wife and his son. Janelle was shopping with her kids today.
Yeah.
Let these people come out and now jump on these shows. Let them tell us about their experience.
Right.
I'm talking shit, and the last time I was on the show was 2006. Who cares? Put Janelle in here. Put Kaser on these shows. That's the people we want to hear from. I would much rather watch the season through their eyes and listening with them since they've got to play against these people personal, and it'll be more fun, So
absolutely.
Speak about the good coming out of this and put that around so we can go to our benefit.
And now we get Janelle on Twitter and in the comments on Instagram, which is a delight in itself.
Okay, this Nicole bullshit. Who charges $3,000 for a wedding?
I just saw that. I was like,
so.
What?
And I've never heard. I'm an old man. I've been to a lot of weddings in my life, and I've never ever heard someone asking for like a fee. When my cousin got married, they're rich, like 7-story home, Chevy Chase, Maryland, big partners in, tax law firms. That hotel was like $600 a night on like the discounted rate. It was this insane country club, and it was a smaller wedding. But to ask for someone for $3,000 to come to your wedding, I mean, when we brought people in for ours, I got Aria to do a reduced room rate for everyone at $160. They were going for over $500 that weekend. There was a fight that happened on. And it's just, you want this to be a good experience for your guests. You want open bar. You want people to get wasted. You want them to have great memories because it should hopefully be the only wedding that you have. I just didn't understand that. Was she trying to make money off this?
I don't think that
I don't have Nicole, those answers.
For as much as Nicole talked about how much trouble she was going to be in if Janelle was in the house, I don't think she anticipated how much trouble Janelle was going to cause for her out of the house.
And you know what? They're digging their own graves. Nicole's being petty, and that she's going to take it. Danny's saying a lot of stupid shit. When Danny did that the dance monkey dance thing to Kevin, a lot of people have tried to spin this. It's, you know what? Howie does that shit in season 6 or season 7.
Yeah.
We're a different time.
Yep.
While he should have been chastised for it, right? I mean, which he didn't do anything like that, thankfully. But there's no fucking excuse for a 30-year-old woman to say something like that to a black guy. It doesn't make sense. She can play it off however she wants.
How does it work in your BB alum community? Because like you guys are obviously all know each other and are connected, and you're all watching her say things. And like, how does she come out of the house after this? I don't understand.
You know what? She's a grown woman with a family. She's gonna have to deal with whatever repercussions you get from it. It's the same thing we all have to do. There have been people who you know how Twitter is. People are like, oh, this is a microaggression. That's a microaggression.
Yeah, right.
Whatever. That is something I can speak to, but when you say something that blatant, then there's no defense for it. Danny Reyes, though, when I did their show last week, she was defending it. She says Danny's not a racist and da 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 da. It was really poor choice. I'm not saying Daniel's a racist either because I don't know her in that capacity. Danielle, Donato, and myself do not like each other. That's, I mean, that's how it is. But I think that's also why I say that, because, you know, I want everyone to know that I personally don't like her, but that was just reprehensible. I think it was disgusting that she said that, and there's no point to it.
I know.
But we kind of went off on a tangent because that's kind of what I do.
No, we appreciate it. We love it. I mean, I kind of agree to like let Janelle and it was so painful to watch Janelle try to, you know, campaign and game with these people who were just being idiots and difficult to work with. And now the same thing with Kaser. So I feel like, yes, why force them to sit in the house with these people who are just not even willing to give them the time of day? So
really quick, the thing that bothered me about Janelle and Kaser when the week Janelle was nominated is that Janelle and Kaser did not go together into the HOH room. Not from what I saw. I just, you know, saw that stuff on the show. They should have gone in together, and they should have been like, listen, this is how we're getting out of this week, you know, and they should have come in there with a plan instead of going separate, because
to Cody, the first one,
and weaknesses. Yes. They both have their strengths and their weaknesses, and they're both so much smarter and so much better players than Cody. I think that was where together they could have had Cody even thinking he has, you know, another alliance with them. And Nicole would have been an easy target for that, especially with the Cody Derek stuff. You know what I mean? All of us know about the bullshit that happened beforehand. Okay? Right. There were so many different things. They had gone in there together. I think that Janelle and Kaser, because they're both iconic players and they both have their strengths and different weaknesses, they could have used that to kind of force Cody's hand a bit, but at least try. You know, separately, I think that it's hard to go in there when you have no bargaining power by yourself. I know, I've been there.
Yeah.
You know, trying to talk to Maggie like, shit, come on, man. Not happening.
I feel like
really appreciate you guys having me on your show.
Oh, yes. No, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. Have a wonderful summer watching whatever is left of BB22.
People, don't give up. It's going to get good. We'll have Kaser and Janelle doing these shows. We're going to have fun watching it with them.
Yes. I got to tell you guys, if you are not following James on Twitter, do it. It is very entertaining.
Solid.
I've actually finally started blocking people. Before I used to argue with people. Now I'm old and cranky and I just don't even bother with it anymore. It's just like, so much easier to block.
We love it. Thank you guys so much for being in the chat. And if you're joining us later, please leave us a comment. Let us know all your thoughts about James and BB22. All right, you guys.
For having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.